Welcome to Season 3 of the Casual Camping Podcast, your home for the best camping discussion both in and out of the field. Here are your hosts, Tim and Ade.
Welcome to this week's episode of Casual Camping Podcast. I'm Tim and Ade is eating biscuits.
Hello, I'm Ade.
Whoa, Ade! You blew them levels with that hello.
Wow, I've got me sugar rush.
You just that's your diabetes talking. You don't have diabetes, do you?
I do not. I have recently had a little health check, and considering all of the good and bad things I do, I'm a relatively healthy guy.
Blooming heck.
I know.
Heck. Did they have the right patient name on the labels and things? Have you got someone else's blood test results back?
I did go and ask that wino if he'd pee into something, so it was his kind of, please pay him.
It's saying something though, Ed, if a wino's got better health than you.
Just to be on the safe side.
How are you?
I'm good. We are sat on a rare occasion next to each other doing it in person, which is brilliant.
It is really nice to actually be sat in the same room because we've had to do it on Zoom for so long. It's I don't know. Let's see if the banter's different if we're in the same room.
Yeah, we run the risk of flinching or maybe attacking the other person if we take the piss a little bit too hard.
Yeah, potato in the ear.
Oh, let it go, man.
Oh, no, I can't let it go. I'm 50. By the time this is going out, I've actually turned 50. And I've held on to that story since I was probably, 11. Probably 10, maybe 10 years. 40 years. Potato in the ear.
You were over 16. You make me sound like a child beater.
Oh yeah, I'm not carrying on that conversation.
Okay. No. So I have come to visit Tim ahead of his birthday. It's the big 5-0. So we've done a little bit of present opening. Would you like to tell the listeners all about some of your new gear, Tim?
Would I ever? Oh my God, I've been so lucky. Sorry, I went all a bit girly there. I apologise. So we were at the show a couple of weeks ago, which I know we've talked about it, but one of the great pieces of equipment that we saw at that show, and thankfully it was available, we weren't allowed to touch it because we might have hurt ourselves. It's the Victorinox Venture Pro knife. And my brother has gone and bought me that knife and the Venture Pro kit that goes with it. So it's a fantastically awesome fixed-bladed knife that comes in a great case, and it's a Swiss Army knife. So yes, it might be a fixed blade, but it does so much stuff with it. It's got places for doing a bow drill on. It's got places to add extra tools, so you can actually drill holes into wood. It's got a inbuilt ferro rod. It's got some tweezers just in case you get some splinters. It's got sharpening stones built into it, and it's got this amazing pouch that fits around it. There'll be loads of pictures on because this piece of kit is just going to live on my hip probably for the rest of my life. Oh yeah, you're just pointing out the snacks that I've put on the table for us actually expired 2 years ago.
I've been poisoned, listeners. I've been poisoned.
Thank you for bringing the presents round.
Jesus, that's 24. Do you not have any up-to-date snacks?
The up-to-date snacks have been eaten. Sorry. I didn't even look. This one must be all right because this isn't
that old.
This doesn't have a date on it, but
I'll leave that one for you, Tim. I will leave that one for you.
Thank you. Sorry, that really good health check you just had done. Yeah, it's a beautiful, beautiful present. I am a very, very lucky boy. I'm also very old, so I have now turned 50, people. It's an odd thing to happen, really, but, it's better than the alternative, which is to not make 50. So I'll go with it while I can.
Tim, some of your health things last year, it was touch and go.
Love you too. Thanks.
Yeah, do you have a will?
I do, actually.
Who gets your camping stuff?
I haven't put the camping stuff in the will.
Ah!
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
Me casa, su casa, canvas casa.
I'll say it here, you get all my camping gear. Yeah. There you go.
And then maybe I'll be a 3 Winterwell tent stove guy. If something magically happens to Tim over this next coming weeks. I don't want any of the listeners phoning the police and nothing.
I somehow don't feel very loved. This is meant to be my birthday episode.
Okay, let's change tact. So, other things that have happened this week are that we feature on Super Cool Camping.
Super good camping.
Super good camping.
It is a cool show, though. Tim and Pam from Canada. They do a camping podcast as well, and they are pretty cool people. And we have mentioned them before. You are allowed to go and have a listen to them, but particularly have a listen to this week's episode, which is an interview with me and Ed.
Yeah, obviously, if you can't get enough of us, then go and do that. But Tim and Pam have some really interesting guests on, do a lot of interviews, but they're also, they do camping slightly more, so they go out into the wilderness that they've got over there in Canada. I'm so jealous of it. Absolutely brilliant. So have a listen to us first, and then you can have a listen to them, maybe.
And we have invited Tim and Pam to come on to this show. So we're working out a date still, but we're gonna get them on to talk about canoe camping, because they do a lot of canoeing out into the backcountry out in Canada, and obviously we don't do that, but we're going to get them on the show to come and talk to us about what it's like to go canoe camping for 5, 6, 10 days at a time as they do. So stay tuned for more on that, because that'll be a great episode.
Yeah. So, Tim, what we're talking about this week?
Me. All me.
Tim and his presents.
No, we're actually talking about sleeping bags.
Ooh, there's a curveball.
It's been on the list of stuff to do, and it's kind of one of those essential pieces of kit that we've never really done some proper talking about.
No, I think we've edged around it. We've included it in other bits and pieces. I know we've talked about upgrading recently, and I've upgraded mine. So you can get your basic sleeping bags, $20, $30, £pounds if you want.
If you get something from a supermarket, you can get it for a tenner now. You can get it from a tenner, but it's what is that? What is the quality of that? Are all sleeping bags the same? No, they're not.
No, generally you get what you pay for, and over the years, it's one of those things that I've not updated until really, maybe around COVID, when I'd got all my tents, I'd got all this, and I thought, maybe my sleeping system and my sleeping bags. And I've had some very nice ones. But up until that point, I had kind of like 1 season, maybe 2 season sleeping bags, and I maybe doubled them up.
Yeah.
So that, you can add an extra season if you put one inside the other.
Shall we talk about seasons then? Because some listeners might not be aware of that. So Ade's talking about seasons there. So when you're looking at sleeping bags, we're looking at, and other outdoor equipment, actually, not just sleeping bags, but one of the measure of certain pieces of outdoor equipment is a season. So a one season, anything that's a one season sleeping bag, it's really just for summer. So it'll be the thinnest amount of the lowest amount of thermal properties that bag will come with. So it's not designed to keep you particularly warm. It's for use in warm weather, and actually it's really effective if it's really warm, because actually it will keep you a bit cooler. But then they tend to then not really do a 2 season. It tends to be 2/3 season. It's those shoulder seasons of spring and then autumn here in the UK, fall in North America. And then you've got your full 4 season, which will take you right into winter, and it'll do those real sub-zero temperatures, and we'll have a comfort range, down into minus 5, 10, 15, 25 in extreme cases. You can get some real high performance 4 season sleeping bags that will do, Arctic temperatures, proper mountaineering, winter mountaineering stuff that'll keep you a comfort rating of minus 40 degrees centigrade. You're going to pay a lot of money for something like that, and that's where the money really comes in, isn't it, Ade? The more seasons it'll do, you're going to pay a lot of money.
Yeah, you definitely are. And I think with sleeping bags, you get what you pay for, essentially. And out of those kind of sleeping bags, what's the materials that you get? That affect the weight of them, affect how much they can press down, and that's where that kind of money really goes to for those really expensive ones. It's an expedition, you're carrying everything, you want it to be light, you want it to go small, but you still want those really good thermal properties, and that's what you pay for. Do you need that within sort of the milder weathers within the UK? No, but certainly if you're going to get into sort of freezing conditions, it's always best to have a little bit more than you maybe need, or something, like I say, that you can add to it.
Most sleeping bags, they'll have their range of temperature that they will go down to, and then there's a comfort range which is well within the maximums of that sleeping bag. And the comfort range, that's what it means. You'll be comfortable in this, but it will give you protection. Your comfort range might be down to -2, but it will, a sleeping bag like that will give you protection down to maybe -5 or -7. You won't be necessarily comfortable at that. So it's always worth looking at what the comfort range is for that sleeping bag that you're buying, and does that fit the seasons that you're going camping in, and the areas that you're going to be camping in.
I think that's the bit that really confused me when I was looking at sleeping bags, because I looked at what will the maximum it go down to, and then thought I'd be okay. And actually, I've had quite a few uncomfortable nights. Sleeping in my clothes, getting all my clothes on, putting a coat on. And actually, once you get that cold, it's really difficult to get out of it. So cold feet will keep you awake all night.
And actually, putting a load of clothes on inside a sleeping bag stops the sleeping bag from working properly. Because what you need to do is you need a warm body going into a sleeping bag. You need that air around your body.
Ooh. Is this an extra body? I didn't know you could get those camping.
I have got a double sleeping bag.
I wondered where you were going with that, Tim. Extendable.
Oh God! But if you're cold and you've put loads of clothes on to try and warm yourself up, and you get into the sleeping bag, the heat that your body does have and your body creates needs to get trapped in the fibres of the sleeping bag, not the fibres of your clothes. Because then actually you're just preventing the sleeping bag from doing its job. Ooh. Whereas if you put a warm person into a sleeping bag without loads of extra layers on between you and the sleeping bag, that heat gets trapped in the fibres of the sleeping bag, and it will hold on to it. You're much better actually putting a blanket underneath you and on top of you, outside of the sleeping bag, than you are putting extra layers on and getting into the sleeping bag.
And I think that's the difficulty, isn't it? When you're cold on a night and you're climbing into, it feels really the opposite thing to do, to take layers off. You know, I've done that before. I've slept in my clothes. I've added other things. And
I bet you've still been cold.
Yeah, I have. I think once you do get cold, that's it. But I think... yeah, an interesting thing to know, Tim. So thanks. I'm learning something on this one.
Would that be a top tip?
It could be a top tip. It really could be a top tip. So we've gone through the seasons and what they're specifically designed for. What are the fabrics and what are they made out of?
So you've got numerous synthetic types of sleeping bag, and historically you'd kind of say, well, you know, there was synthetic and there was a down, so duck down, and you'd historically you'd have always said a down sleeping bag is going to keep you warmer than a synthetic sleeping bag. But actually, synthetic, it's not just one thing anymore. There's, you know, if you go and buy a synthetic sleeping bag from a supermarket, it's going to be pretty rubbish, to be honest. It's probably quite old technology and the thermal properties of that aren't brilliant. But actually, there's now really high-performance synthetics. And for people like yourself who are asthmatic, you struggle with the duck down and feathers. So actually, it's great now that there's really high-performing synthetics out there, because it means you're not climbing into a sleeping bag and waking up in the middle of the night wheezing because you've had a reaction to the blooming feathers.
Wheezy Joe is what Lily calls us.
Okay. Is that role play?
It's my asthma, okay.
So
I've got
an affliction.
affliction, yeah.
I've got a disability. It's called Ade.
But he does make you laugh. Even though you poison him on like 3-year-old biscuits.
I noticed though you've eaten them all.
They're tasted our eat. Anyway, so there's a lot of hollow fibre, and I think the difference between duck down or feathers, and so you get your feather sleeping bag wet, it loses its thermal property, and you will not get warm with it. Whereas the advantages of, say, synthetic hollow fibres are they can be wet and still keep you warm. I've used to have a Vango Force 10 sleeping bag, which I got for a really good price, and that had panels of duck down with synthetics, also for my feet and chest.
Oh, nice.
And head. It had panels of duck down, which were really, really good. I got it for a good price because it was a lefty sleeping bag, and it was a sod to get in and out of as I'm right-handed. So, my son's a lefty, so he got it after a while. Once it had lost the newness of it, you know.
Once it was dead to you.
It was dead to me, yeah. As all kit eventually is. You'll be dead to me too soon, Tim.
Can we stop this?
I just wondered whether or not, you know, to get into a big number, you're focusing on your mortality. And I just wanted to say it's probably the right thing to do.
You're older than me. You've lived through this.
Well, I think, as everybody knows, you've got to take the piss out of somebody that turns 50. I had it. I'm just passing it on.
Thank you. Is that why you bought me a knife for my birthday? Because you know I'll probably injure myself quite seriously with it.
I did think we were just making feather sticks, and I was like, "Ooh, was this a good choice?"
Oh, it's an amazing choice. It's absolutely a brilliant choice. So I've got some pros and cons anyway. Back to sleeping bags. So I've got some pros and cons for down versus synthetic. So synthetic bags, Pros, they retain insulation when damp and wet, as you just pointed out. They're cheaper than down, and they're easier to clean. Cons being it doesn't retain heat as well as a down sleeping bag, and they tend to have a shorter lifespan because the synthetic fibres tend to get compressed quite a bit, and they don't spring back like down feathers do. And then same for sort of down sleeping bags, pros and cons. Excellent heat retention. So pros first, excellent heat retention, lightweight, better warmth to weight ratio. So you're not carrying as much equipment, but you're getting a much better benefit to it's performing better. Wider comfort temperature range, making it suitable for cold and warm temperatures. My sleeping bag, I only take the one now, and I do that whether it's summer, whether it's spring, autumn, or winter, because it's just a really great sleeping bag. It's got a long lifespan if looked after, and easier to compress and pack small. What I would say with any sleeping bag when you are packing them away, it's great to compress them when you're out in the field and in the country, but actually when you get home, you shouldn't leave it compressed. You should get it out. Most quality sleeping bags come with a second bag, like a big sack that you can put it into. If you haven't got that, then just get it out of the compression sack and just let it rest. The cons for a down sleeping bag: loses heat insulation ability when it gets wet. Takes a long time to dry out once it has got wet. They tend to be a lot more expensive. And they, cleaning wise, they do require specialist cleaning. You can't just stick them in the washing machine.
Yeah, so I'm quite pleased I knew most of that.
That's cool.
Yeah. I would also add so my current sleeping bag is yes, you're going to hear it for the first time on this episode, a Snow Peak sleeping bag. And with sleeping bags that are down, you have to let them spring back. So if you want the best kind of thermal properties from them, open them up an hour before you're going into your bed. Let them, because they spring out, they fluff up, and just gives you an awful lot more. Give them that time to breathe and uncompact from what they were.
As soon as I get the tent up and get the bed made, I tend to let the self-inflating mat. If I'm sleeping on the floor, it's just a self-inflating mat. If I'm sleeping on a camp bed, I still put a sim on top of that for extra comfort. So I tend to roll that out and leave the cap open just so that can inflate. I immediately get my sleeping bag out and lay it out on top and do exactly the same thing and just let them rest.
Yeah.
Let them rest.
Yeah. I think you do good. So, differences, Tim, between the shapes of sleeping bags. So, I've had mummy sleeping bags. I've come away from them as I've, a bit of a larger fella. I found them to be a little bit more restrictive in my movement as I sleep. I'm not somebody that just lies on their back. Mm-hmm. And so I've gone for something with a little bit more leg room. And the joy of the Snow Peak one is that the top completely zips away from the bottom.
Nice.
So although it's a 4-season, we'll go down to about -5 or something, which is plenty for the UK. It has various compartments that you can zip off, so you can just have your feet open if you want to cool down. You can zip the top from the bottom off so that in summer you can use it just as a bit of a blanket, or full on winter where you've got it all zipped in and it really sort of insulates you and stops those drafts coming in. So,
gosh, and that's like a square shape,
square,
probably like a more traditional.
Yeah, old school 1970s kind of version.
That's you all over.
Hey, I'm here all week.
If you're a colour, you'd be beige. And covered in wood chip.
Can we not talk about colours? I can't tell.
Yeah, we are colourblind. So there are shape-wise. It used to be everything was square. Then they brought out mummy sleeping bags, and mummy sleeping bags are exactly what it says on the tin. It's in the shape of a mummy, so you're literally in there like an Egyptian mummy. But now they don't just do that now. So now there's sort of egg-shaped ones where you can curl up. So they still come tight around your head and often with a hood as well. But actually there's a wider body to it, and then it narrows at your feet again so that you can get into that fetal position and you can turn over a lot easier. I really quite like those. I think they're a good idea. And then you've got big sort of double sleeping bags. So if there's multiple people, or couples, sorry, not multiple, that sounds if you're having a gangbang, just, what on earth?
There's children now saying, what did he just say?
If you're being overly friendly with a larger group of people.
Let's move on. So yes, for those couples, the double sleeping bag.
Sorry.
I've also seen some where your lower legs are in a mummy-shaped sleeping bag with then a more open top, but then with a down blanket that comes with it that you can tuck into the side, give you a bit more room.
Oh, nice.
Really, really like those. And you can get those sleeping systems where the air mat is part of it, or at least goes into baffles behind, so you don't lose any fabric or the slips off the sleeping mat.
Our friend of the show, Richard the Fixer, he's got a heated sleeping bag, hasn't he?
Yes.
So it's like an electric blanket that you plug into a USB bank or a power system, and it's got a heating element in it, and it warms him up, and that's pretty cool actually. I quite like the look of that.
Well, I've also got and it's a chair cover that has a battery pack to, if you're sat out in winter and sometimes your back can get very cold. But I've also used that as an electric blanket underneath my sleeping bag.
Nice.
And it kind of works really. I think they're from a company called Stuve.
Yeah.
Really, really nice. But they do cushions as well. So I think that's the other thing.
You and your soft furnishings.
Soft furnishings, I love them.
Always reminds me of Monty Python, and when they go, one day, son, all this will be yours, and the son turns around and goes, what, the curtains? Always makes me think of you.
The doilies. So the other aspect to, if you've got a one season summer sleeping bag, what are the things that, if it's going to be a little bit chillier, you can do? So we were just talking there about electric things, and I think we're in the age of power packs, solar panels, things that you can charge up to give out residual heat. Those are things that you can take with you. You can also get sleeping bag liners.
Yeah, I've got a silk sleeping bag liner that nearly killed me. Actually, I nearly died from using that the first time I used it.
He didn't get stuck in it and couldn't find his way out. We heard screaming from 2 tents down,
and we didn't go looking.
Oh, we'll just leave him a few more minutes.
Yeah, it was a one-person tent I was staying in.
Tim's having a good time.
Oh man, that wasn't what happened. But anyway, so I went camping, and it was February, and I knew it was going to be cold, and I only had a summer, spring sleeping bag. It wasn't a winter sleeping bag. It wasn't a four season at the time. And so I ordered a silk sleeping bag liner because it gives, they used to say it would give you an extra season. It probably doesn't. It probably gives you half a season. So it'll take a one season to maybe a spring sleeping bag. And it does work.
They're surprisingly good. I've got a couple now. Mm-hmm. The silk ones, considering they're silk and thin, I didn't think they'd work as well as they really do. I've had a fleece one, and I've now got something with some thermal properties, which I sort of have as a standby just in case I'm cold. But yeah, there's some main things there.
So silk has got a lot of thermal properties as long as it's part of another layered system.
Yeah.
But it was absolutely brilliant. It just locks the heat in, and it's great. And I still use that same silk liner now.
Did we get to the point why it nearly killed you, or did we move on? Listeners want to know.
So, went camping. It was February in the UK, and absolutely fine. Great. Camping trip was brilliant. Did a lot of hiking, hiked a lot of hills, and it was absolutely brilliant. Went home, and within a few days, I was struggling to walk on my left leg, and it started to swell up and go a bit red. Went to see my GP, my community doctor. To anyone not in the UK, we call them GPs. And they said, "Oh, you've been bitten by something." And I went, "By what?" Because it's like, February in the UK. And I went, "Well, you've been bitten by something. Here's some antibiotics." 2 days later, I was in an ambulance going to A&E. I was not making any sense. My whole leg was now red. I think you saw me in A&E, and I was literally away with the blooming fairies. When I was off my rocker.
Potatoes. Nobody knew what he was on about. I was like, oh gosh, I don't want this to come out here.
Smother him.
Just pull that curtain round.
Oh god. I ended up in an isolation unit because literally I had no immune system left. My body had been trying to fight it off. And I'd definitely been bitten by something. And some expert eventually came to see me after a few days. And he determined it was some kind of spider. And they said, "What have you been doing?" I explained where I'd been. And they went, they couldn't understand it either. And it was only through talking through it all that I then remembered I'd bought this silk sleeping bag liner off eBay. It had come from China, and I bought it lastminute.com, and there wasn't time to wash it. And what we think is something came along for the journey inside the silk sleeping bag liner. So I was bitten by some crazy Chinese spider that literally sent my whole leg septic and nearly killed me. And but I survived to tell the tale, and I'm a Yorkshireman. I put it in the washing machine, and I still use it now.
Yeah. And Tim also does like to think he's Spider-Man every now and again.
Sometimes I'm literally crawling the ceiling.
Well, crawling, creeping. Ooh. It affects us all differently.
I can't do webs though. Can't do webs.
Thank God for small mercies.
I always thought it was a bit weird on Spider-Man that he could do webs from his wrists, whereas spiders, it comes out the bum. It'd have been a very different comic book, wouldn't it? Tom Holland hanging upside down with a web coming out of his bottom. It's not the same movie, is it?
It's not. Stanley obviously knew what he was doing.
Yeah. That was a subtle change. I'd love to see those first drawings, though, when he hadn't made that change. Meanwhile, back to sleeping bags.
So yes, and yeah, so those that can give an extra layer of heat. Really, really good. Like I said, there are lots of things, and you can just go old school and take a hot water bottle with you and do some water. Brilliant for.
I've never done that, and every time somebody mentions it, I keep thinking that'd be great because you can get those long, thin hot water bottles now, can't you? It'd be great to just boil up a bit of water, an hour or two before you're planning on going to bed, and just lay it the length inside your sleeping bag. And then it'd be so nice and warm and toasty when you get in.
Yeah, I think, some of those old school's always a good school.
Yeah, it is. It is. The reason for doing that is sleeping bags don't make you warm. The sleeping bags,
it's your own heat, isn't it?
Yeah, even the most expensive sleeping bag in the world will not create heat, unless it's an electric one, obviously, but it doesn't create any heat. All it does is it's really, really, really good at holding on to the heat that you put in. So if you're already cold, you're not. It's going to take a long time to warm up once you're in a sleeping bag. So taking some heat with you, whether that's a hot water bottle, whether that's some kind of heat mat, or some of those heat pads where you break the little thing, you snap it in half. And
they're really good. My mate Chris gave us a couple of those when we were winter camping. Put them down by your feet. They were brilliant.
Yeah,
really
they are great. I've used those before. Or simply, if you haven't got any of those and you are cold, before you get into the sleeping bag, do some sit-ups. Do 10, 20 sit-ups. Create some body heat. Get your metabolism creating some body heat. Then jump into your sleeping bag, and it'll hold on to it, and it will make a real big difference.
Yeah, definitely. So, as I've said before, I had a lefty sleeping bag. So they do all different types of one. You can get ones that the left or the right, ideally for left-handed and right-handed people. You still can use them. There's no law against it if you're a left-handed person to use a right-handed person's sleeping bag.
We don't discriminate.
We don't discriminate at all. And then there's also the ones with a zip down the centre, which I've also had. I had a mountain equipment one, and it was brilliant. The only thing I would say is make sure that goes quite far down. This only went kind of halfway, and I always nearly killed myself trying to get into it. I was just like, throwing something out, trying to get me feet in and over as I'm lying on it. So
that's funny.
Funny. Well, I think those are the things.
There's also length, isn't there?
For those people. Yeah, I suspect Danny DeVito might have a child's one.
Although he might need the girth, because he's a bit chunky now, isn't he? Our good old Danny DeVito. So he probably has one of those egg-shaped ones.
You're thinking of him when he was the penguin.
I am. That's the permanent Danny DeVito image in my head.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And for those people that, longer, wider, you can get sleeping bags in so many different sizes. I suspect that those then are more challenging once you get to those higher end pieces that nobody wants to be making as a manufacturer, 50 different sizes of something. So
that is.
So maybe what you've got to choose from if you need something a little bit longer or wider maybe isn't sort of, the range is much more narrow for those, but they do them. They are out there, and
I personally need a longer sleeping bag because there's nothing worse than not being able to get sort of hunkered into it and everything, and your face is out and it's all a bit cold.
Is that why you've got a double one? Sleep on the diagonal.
On the diagonal. Do you know what? I haven't tried that, but now I'm thinking I might just take the double next time. Because even then you could just fold it over it, couldn't you? You could fold it under you as an extra blanket.
Barney Rubble it.
All right, with the Cockney rhyming slang. Barney Rubble, dabble.
Yeah. It's corned beef.
What's that?
Beef.
Oh, God.
Some listeners from the northeast might know that's Geordie rhyming slang.
Oh, corned beef. Oh, man. People can barely understand us across the world anyway. Let's not start talking in code. Blum and egg. Basically, sleeping bags come in loads of different shapes and sizes, different lengths. You don't assume that one sleeping bag is going to do everything for you. I think is probably what we're trying to get to, isn't it?
Yeah.
Do your research. Go and have a look at them. Don't try if you can not to buy it online, because you need to have a look. You need to have a feel. Unless you know exactly what it is you're after, and you've already seen it in a show or at a shop somewhere. And then, find it online cheaper, because it tends to be. But,
Also, how do you sleep? If you're somebody that sleeps on their side, whether you're in a cot or on the ground, you'll have pressure points on your shoulder and your hip. But also you want that movability within your sleeping bag to be able to. So those are all factors that you need to really consider.
Yeah, very true.
Yeah.
Very true.
And you get what you pay for, plain and simple. And I think those are the things. If you're mainly camping in the summer, a one season should do you quite well.
Yeah, be absolutely fine. And you won't need to spend a lot of money. I've got a one season. I've still got a one season from when I was. I did a couple of sort of longer hikes, like 2-3 day hikes, and was worried about weight. But I had the one. It was summer stuff, so I took the one season and the silk liner. And it was absolutely great and didn't cost a lot of money. And it packs literally down to not much bigger than a tin of beans. It's great.
So here's something then. So I go camping in the swag quite a lot.
Swag a lot.
So swag a lot. Oh, I've got a new nickname. Lily will put that on a T-shirt.
Oh, she's not listening.
She's not listening. I'll have to give her some big hints.
Yeah.
But because before I got the new sleeping bag, I then tried it with just a single duvet. And over the summer, that was brilliant. It was really nice. You've got the movability, which is what I was after. But I did that in an autumn camp. And actually, with the air temperature being that much cooler, there was a lot of air getting in. Throughout the side.
A lot of draftage.
Yeah, a lot of draftage where it doesn't matter in the summer and you want to keep cool but not be and have covers on you. Whereas actually those other seasons where even though the quilt itself would have kept me warm, it was more the turning over that actually let drafts in, and that's what sleeping bags are really preventative of. You don't get that cold air seeping in because you're zipped up and you're zipped into them. So don't just think, I'll just take my bed in from home. There's a reason why sleeping bags were invented. So
wise. I know a few people that just take quilts and things from home, and you're right. It's fine for like the summer, but you will struggle sort of in the later months, and certainly in winter. You need something that you're going to lock yourself into that's designed for the purpose of keeping you warm in cold weather, and that's going to be an expensive sleeping bag, I'm afraid.
Yeah, definitely. Because there's now worse than being cold. We've said it before, and we'll say it again, no doubt, because we repeat ourselves. We know it. No need to write in and tell us.
Yeah, we don't need any letters. Thank you very much.
No letters. No.
Speaking of letters, I've got a mediocre 5-star review.
Whoop, whoop.
If I can find it. This is from Trevor. Trevor in Montana, USA.
Trevor's.
Trevor's. Trevor says, "Hello, Tim and Ed. I'm a big fan of your podcast. I listen to your episodes every day at work. I've recently started buying gear to get into backpacking camping, and your podcast has definitely helped inspire me. I haven't done it much in my life, so it's relatively new. I live in Montana, USA, and there are some great mountains to backpack in here, and I'll be taking the advice you two have given with me. So thank you for your podcast. I look forward to new episodes." Thank you.
Wow. Montana, beautiful part of the world.
Stunning part of the world. Part of the world we haven't been to. We're waiting for that invite, people in Montana. We're waiting for that invite and the flights.
Oh dear, yes. Yeah, this podcast's not making us rich, but, it's certainly good fun.
It's making us giggle, that's for sure.
It really is. So thanks for staying with us. We're going to go off for a minute mindfulness.
Go on then. What should we give them this time? Should we give them birds? Birds or water? I think I did rain last week, and nobody likes that, particularly if you're driving. It makes you want to go for a pee.
Yes.
Let's leave it as a surprise. Here it comes.
Welcome to the Casual Camping Minute Mindfulness. Let the sounds of nature take you back to the camping field.
Oh, that was lovely. What a lovely surprise it was, Tim.
What was the surprise, Ed?
Birds. I think.
We like birds.
Tim's got space in it. No.
No. Tim, why have you brought a double sleeping bag and you're just on your own?
I mean, there could be accidents there, couldn't it? He got tangled.
Oh, those kind of accidents. I thought you meant I'd wet myself. I am getting to that age.
Seems to be at the forefront of your mind. If that's the first thing that you thought of.
It's always a danger. It's always a danger. Oh, my God. Oh dear, no. So yes, I am proper old now. I have turned 50 while we're recording this, and but you know, there's a hell of a lot of years of camping still in me, and I'm not switching over to a caravan. I'm not switching over to a camper van. I'm sleeping under canvas, and I'm going to do that for as many years as I can.
Amen to that.
Cool. I suppose then we should just sort of reiterate. Go over and have a listen to Super Good Camping, because their current episode features me and thee.
Aye.
And check out our socials. We'll put a load of stuff about sleeping bags on this coming week. Find us on Instagram. Find us in Facebook. We've got a really active Facebook group with a great chats. And as I always forget to say, but you remind me, don't forget to subscribe.
Woo! Gosh, tick, tick, and tick some more.
Tickety tick tock.
Oh.
Are we on TikTok?
We kind of are, but I'm a bit lazy with that, I have to say. There's only 3 people, and we already know them.
Well, let's. We're predominantly on Instagram and Facebook. Let's say that.
Well, we'll do more when we start doing dance routines.
You are aware now we have to do a dance routine because you've said that.
I mean, the last camping trip when we went away up in the northeast with you, I was trying to get Graham to do a synchronised dance together. And I thought, how funny would that be if just 2 people got up and started like it'd be amazing. And I kind of want to do it. So,
God, yeah. Well, we'll see if we can do that at some point. Here's me hoping you just forget.
I might want to as well. It depends how good we are, really, Tim. If we nail it, then, you know.
If we nail it. I mean, you had me do that duff, hands over my head thing, and I managed to do that all right.
Yes.
And you had your finger lights on.
Double beauty hands, was
love
it?
Hands. Or
Double love hands.
Double love handles. Ooh. Yeah. Now I'm uncomfortable. Let's just stop talking.
This is awkward when we're in the same room. We both looked away then.
Well, I didn't know you did it naked. I wondered why you hadn't been turning your camera on for ages.
And with that bombshell, we will say we'll catch you next week. I've been Ade.
And I've been Tim. Bye-bye.
Casual Camping Podcast accepts no liability and does not officially recommend any products or endorse any techniques discussed in an individual podcast episode or shown on Casual Camping Podcast social media accounts. Individuals should make their own informed decision and risk assessment of any products or advice prior to any purchase or use.